Retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer is in Washington. Colonel, Brussels remains at a maximum terror alert level. What kind of threat could force an entire city to shut down?
Well, anything regarding a mass casualty attack, we're talking about something like we saw in Mumbai, the Mumbai attack, or like we saw in Paris, where you have multiple shooters moving through the streets doing different things. This is the worst case scenario. 60 Minutes reported just last night about this. My friend Ray McPartland was talking about this from New York City, where clearly anything to do with multiple shooters, multiple locations, is clearly designed to overwhelm the police and security force responses. So that clearly could bring any major city to its knees rapidly.
Colonel, police have arrested 21 people in terror raids over the weekend. Are these type of raids and shutdowns sort of the new normal in Europe? And also, what kind of intelligence, if any, can be gleaned from individuals who are caught up in these kinds of dragnets?
Good point. Well, first, the new norm. Well, look, we've seen mass casualty attacks, which literally are the wave of the future for at least ISIS for now. They're very inexpensive. We're talking about a handful of AK-47s, some homemade explosive, 3 teams of 3 people. When you've got $2 billion and you can spend, $1 million on an attack, that's nothing. So I think this was effective for them. This was a propaganda victory as well as a real victory, even though their side, everybody died. That's what they want. So I think it's going to be very difficult to dissuade them from this, at least for now. Secondly, the intelligence piece. Look, the more intelligence sharing you can do both at the law enforcement level as well as the military intelligence level, the better off you're going to be. We've come to find now that a lot of the information that related to the attacks was actually available. Most of the individuals were already on radar of law enforcement and military intelligence. And simply put, no one was able to put together the pieces in time. Plus, these folks executed their operation in real time. They were texting each other in the open, and no one was able to respond to that rapidly enough to get ahead of them. So this is something we have to look at, is fixing the intelligence.
Following up on that point, Senator Dianne Feinstein, a leader of the Senate Intelligence Committee, criticized the president's ISIS strategy as insufficient over the weekend, and she advocated more special forces on the ground in Syria. What do you make of that?
Well, she's correct. We've got to do more than just Syria, though. I mean, look, ISIS has become expeditionary. We have to look at where it's going expeditionary-wise. We have to go at them directly where they live. They live in Syria. The Russians have gone after more aggressively than we have some of their centers of economic gravity as well as their command and control. So let me tell you, from my own experience, if you're going after the leadership, if you as a leader are worried about waking up alive the next morning, you're a lot less able to plan attacks in 3rd and 4th countries across the continent. So I think this is where she is correct. We need to step it up by an order of magnitude, as well as the fact we have to look at where else they've gone. I mean, clearly ISIS has threatened us. There's no reason to doubt that that is a valid threat based on the fact that everything else they threatened, they've continued to follow through on. So we got to do both, though. We can't simply just go to Syria. We got to look at where they're going ahead of them as well.
French President Francois Hollande is set to meet with President Obama tomorrow at the White House.
Right.
What kind of joint strategy on bolstering the battle against ISIS could they come up with that would really make a difference?
Well, first off, I'd like to believe President Hollande will share with us some very embarrassing information about the mistakes that were made to miss this attack. We have to learn from that. We've got to take those and internalize those lessons so that we don't make the same mistakes. Secondly, NATO. This is the shared space that we've already got with the French. I think we should enhance, both regarding Syria, ISIS there, as well as, as I mentioned, the expeditionary nature of ISIS now. The intelligence sharing piece is something that we should look at. We developed this during the Cold War. It worked very well. I've worked with the French before. So it will work if you allow it to work. So I'd like to believe that that's the area that they will focus on, is the intelligence sharing, intelligence fixing, and making sure that we can work together to prevent further attacks both in Europe and within the United States.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer in Washington for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.